So now let's work on adding a line to our map. So let's say everything above 25th Avenue here is North Division and everything below 25th Avenue is South Division. So what we can do is we can use our crosshairs, line them up, and instead of using the place marker tool that's here, is we can go down to this opposite side on the left-hand side and grab our draw measure tools. Now, what we have to do once we bring this up is add our first point. By adding a point to the map and then dragging those crosshairs, you can see we're creating a line. So let's create a line through most of Vernon along 25th Avenue. We can see the length of our line, the approximate elevation of our point, and the bearing of that line. And you can see on the bottom here we have an X, so that closes this line making tool. We have this crosshair, which brings us back to our location. So if I click that right now, it takes us right back to our current location, which isn't really what we want. And then we have some other options here. But once we've got our line in the position that we want it and the length that we want it, we're going to click this check mark. So now we've created a line. When we click on this area down here, it's going to bring up the information for that line, including the name. Let's edit the name here. We're going to call this perfect. We don't need to add any descriptions or photographs. Well, let's add a description. And move this down here. Now we've got this line. If we wanted to change the color of that line, it's further down in here. We've got style. We've got it set as orange. So maybe let's make that line yellow. We can also make the thickness of the line really thick. So let's go with 6 points, and then we can head back. So now our line is yellow, and it's quite a bit larger and thicker. So great. When we click on that, it'll tell us that's the division line. And now we've created a line that's on our map. The next feature is a polygon. And we have to use 2 or more points in order to create these. So let's say we wanted to create, there was a hazard right here in the middle of this area right here. And we wanted to create a safety circle around it. What we could do is we could use our drawing tool again. We're going to add 1 point. And you can see down here now we've got that X, we've got that crosshair. The line feature is ghosted and you can't select it, but it does. We do have the circle feature. So if we click the circle feature, what happens is the further we draw this line, the bigger and smaller that the circle is made. So it gives us kind of a radius to the circle. Perfect. We'll make the circle that size. When we're ready, if we want to go back, we can hit the undo button, and that undoes the last point that we did. So we'll just add this first point here. Again, that draws us a line. If we click this circle or radius button here, it changes it to a radius. So let's make that a little bit smaller, just so that it fits inside that road, and we'll click the check mark. So now we've created an area. We'll call it perfect. And because it's hazardous, maybe let's change that color. We can change the outline of it to red, and we can change the fill color to yellow. You can see if we We'll leave the fill transparency at 50%. And let's add a description. So we've got our red outline and our yellow inside. And if we've created this area now on the map. So what other shapes can we create? Well, let's create another one here. Using our draw and measure tool again, we'll move those crosshairs. Yeah, let's do it right here. We'll start one point here, clicking the add point. We'll draw a line straight down to this point here and add a point. Now we can keep drawing this outline, but we can see we've got this other option that's popped up here. At any time we can click this and it'll start shading in that area. So we can create a triangle here if that's what we think makes sense. Or if we want to add if we want to add another point, now we can move that triangle and try and capture more of that area. So let's give this area a name. We'll just keep that data the same. And now we've created a complex shape. We can do that again and zoom in more if we have even more complex shapes. So let's try that one more time, drawing a polygon. Let's start. We'll say maybe this green area is a park or a culturally protected area. So we'll add a point here. We want our members to be able to defend the houses that are around it, but not necessarily go into the park. We can add as many points as we want to try and make this as tight to that shape as we feel is necessary. And again, at any time we can click this infill button here, and as we add points, you know, maybe that's good enough for us and we don't need to go as tight in that region. Perfect. We can hit the check mark. That's going to create our shape. So let's call that one. Let's give it a different color. Green on green. And let's try turning this all the way up. Now when you see, here we can see through that center infill, and here we can't. So we can't see the features that are in there and behind there. If we change this all the way to this side, now we can see, I guess you can't really tell because it was green before, but it's a much lighter green. You can kind of see in these areas here. It's still usable. We can still see the streets and the roads that are inside of here and the features that are inside of here. So yeah, we can shift and modify that. Let's make one more safety zone. We'll do it off of like Gray Road, and we're going to make a safety zone. Again with our polygon and our draw and measure tool. Add a point here. Add a point here. All the way to Ricardo Road. Bam. And we'll call this, again, we can add a photo. So here is the safety zone. From the roadway. And in the description we can add something like so the voice auto detect didn't really get that message, but we can make that quick correction. And now we've added that information. Again, if we wanted to change the color, because it's a safety zone, to make it more identifiable, let's call that one yellow. Yellow with orange. So those are the three types of data that we can apply to a map. That was points, lines, and then polygons. We're able to attach pictures and descriptions and change those features so that they're unique.